Reunirse con personas creativas que viven en tu misma ciudad. Saber quiénes son, qué mueve sus vidas y quizá alguna historia no contada. Bienvenidos a La Conversa, un encuentro auditivo. Soy Carlos Montivero y en cada episodio descubriremos interesantes personas desde algún rincón de la ciudad de Nueva York.
Isabella, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Carlos.
Yes.
I'm excited we got to do this.
Yeah, this is our third episode of La Conversa.
Awesome.
So thank you for accepting my invitation.
My pleasure.
And let's start with some of your background, your family background.
Yeah.
Are you from here? Did you grow up here?
Yeah, so I'm from Brooklyn, South Brooklyn, born and raised, Bay Ridge. And then my parents, my dad's also from Brooklyn, born and raised.
Uh-huh.
His dad's from Coney Island, so the South Brooklyn pride runs
nice.
deep. So my dad's side's been here for a little bit. And then my mom's from Italy, straight from Italy.
Oh,
so
really?
she came here after she met my dad. So she was born in Milano, so her whole family is still there. So my grandparents, uncles, aunts, still there. So I grew up with my mom being Italian, and you know, and then my dad being from here.
Do you speak Italian?
I do. Yeah.
Nice.
I think I understand it a lot better than I speak it, but when I'm there, all of my family, they don't speak English. So I'm kind of forced to, you know, become good at it all of a sudden. So grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up doing dance mostly.
Oh, really?
As far as the arts go. Yeah, I was big into dance. That's what I thought I would do. And then when I was about 7 or 8, just a family friend was like, oh, we have this community theater in Bay Ridge. It's called Narrows Community Theater. And they were doing a production of a show called The Music Man, which I think was just on Broadway again recently. But they were like, oh, we need more ensemble members. We need more kids for like the chorus part. And they're like, would Isabella want to do it? And I was like, sure. I really didn't know what that meant.
How old were you?
I was like 7 or 8 at that time. Yeah. And so then I kind of stumbled in. So from dance, then stumbled into musical theater. And I was like totally enamored with it. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done in my whole life. Like it was so much fun. So then I kept doing that forever. And then eventually, after college, I fell into the songwriting, independent music, you know, of it all. So yeah.
So that would be your earliest significant memory as an artist, or do you have another?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I guess dance was like the first introduction. And it's funny too, because in dance schools, you're introduced to also all different types of music that we're dancing to. So that also showed me the genres of music that I liked. It was a lot of 90s R&B, and then it was also like classical musical theater songs that we were dancing to. So it introduced me to a lot that I didn't even realize would eventually influence the music I wanted to write. So that was really cool. But yeah, definitely doing that show when I was 7 was the beginning of realizing that I wanted to be like a storyteller and be in like a more musical world.
That's very early.
Yeah.
And how did you start, like, do you remember your first song? Yeah, like
that I ever
the
wrote?
one you wrote?
Oh, I mean, I definitely was writing things as a kid. What's funny is I used to hear songs like on the radio or just around, and then I would forget that they were songs that existed, and I would convince myself I wrote them. Like I thought I wrote a couple Kelly Clarkson songs. I was like, I'd go to my brother, it's like, Sean, I wrote this song, and he'd be like, okay, sing it, and he'd be like, yeah, you wrote that, but I didn't really realize. But the first real song that I wrote, I was a freshman in college, and I'd always kind of dabbled in it, and I was writing poetry a lot. So the song on my first EP on Gray called Must Be Nice, that was my very first like official song that I ever wrote.
How do you feel the city influences your art or your music?
Yeah, I love that question.
Do you realize that, or it's something that
Yeah.
you have never thought about it?
No, I love that question. For me specifically, I feel like my neighborhood is influencing my music more so than the idea of like city altogether, you know? Like especially for the EP that I'm working on that hopefully comes out this year.
Soon.
Yeah, we always say that, right? We're like soon. but especially for that one, I feel like I have started to understand more that when I'm expressing for myself and like what it means to be a unique artist to me is really taking the influences that you see on your daily basis and like how do you translate that. So it's even like, you know, when I think about my cover arts, I actually, can I show you my work, my cover art I'm working on? So growing up in Bay Ridge, bakeries have been so important to me. And like the red string on the bakery. So this is going to be the cover art for my next project.
Nice.
And it's meant to look like the top of a bakery box, and the way that, especially in Brooklyn, they love to put the designs on it that are specific to...
What's it called?
Cha-cha. So that's my nickname my parents gave me and my grandparents gave for me growing up. That's the Italian spelling.
And that's the Versailles Bridge.
Yeah.
Right?
And then this is my house because we have a mimosa tree that grows in front of it, which is also kind of silly because that's like a very tropical tree, and for some reason we have it in our front yard. So just all these little things that
is so cool. I love the blue.
Thank you. I drew this myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So thinking about all the imagery that I see in my neighborhood, whether it's the storefronts or the food that I'm eating or the sounds that I'm hearing, if I can find a way to put that in my songs, even if it's not directly, right?
Yeah.
But if I keep that in mind all the time and I'm able to like listen to where it can pop up in my music, then I think I'm totally having the influence of New York and Brooklyn in my music. So I feel that, and I'm always so eager to honor like putting the city into my music, you know, if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, definitely answers the question because, I mean, as a, let's say, foreigner, right, I've seen so many people here, so many different ways of being in this city. And every time I ask this question, people like make that difference. I'm not from New York City. I'm like from this neighborhood, from Brooklyn, from I don't know, from Queens, from whatever, the Bronx.
I was talking about this earlier. I was even thinking it almost feels like repping a sports team. Like when you rep your neighborhood or your borough, like I feel like I'm like cheering for a sport team. I don't know. It's interesting. There's so much pride. People have so much pride for where they come from.
What do you name your project, Sirota?
Oh yeah, that's my artist name,
Oh,
Yeah, it's my last name.
Oh, that's your last name.
And so I just decided that for my music, and I've gone back and forth on it sometimes, but it always feels right to me. It's just, I decided to take off my first name and just do my last name. I had a couple of friends in high school that would just call me Sirota, and they were Sirota, you know. My dad also was called that when he was in high school. It was always like, Sirota. And so I just feel like it's a really nice way to honor my family. And I feel really proud about that. Yeah.
And what's coming soon for the project?
So many cool things. So I have a single, the one called Surprise Yourself I mentioned before. And for that one, we just filmed a music video for it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I can show you stills from that too.
Yeah, sure.
The cameras are going to get jealous. They're going to want to see this.
Are they shooting? Yes.
So what's funny about this is that so this song is a little bit weird. I'll give you this with no context first. Yeah, so I'm a zombie in Coney Island.
That's you?
Yeah. Yes.
Can I scroll left?
Yeah, they might be.
Right?
Yeah, here's another one. It's me eating a hot dog. Yeah. I don't know if the rest are those. Yeah. That's from a different music video, but yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love the character. So you're a zombie?
Yeah, I'm a zombie.
And what's going on?
And the whole song is kind of about getting out of a rut and doing something different. Surprise yourself for a change, you know? Like it only hurts a little bit to surprise yourself and do something new. And so the song is about this zombie that lives in New York that's in their monotony, you know? So also very much like the feeling that capitalism gives you, you know, 9 to 5, coming home from work, it's all the same. So that's why they're zombies, because they're, you know, there's no life.
Is it a sad song or is it like a
It's
upbeat?
happy, yeah. It's a little bit like pop soul vibes, you know. Yeah, it's pretty upbeat. I can send you one of the cuts we have of it.
Oh, please,
Yeah. And then the zombie misses their stop on the train, and they wake up, and they're all the way at the end of the D train or N train, and they're in Coney Island, and then they decide to get out of their comfort zone and try some of the rides and try a hot dog and do all these, like see the water, you know, and so that was really fun to do and super character based, so bringing in kind of the musical theater elements too. So that's going to be coming out soon, the song and the video together.
And the video, okay.
So I'm really excited about that one.
And that's going to be a single?
I think it's going to be a single for the project, yeah, because I like anything that has any sort of visual coming out on its own, so people can take that in.
Yeah, and also it's like how the industry is working now. You put out a single instead of a big like a long record.
Which I don't know if I love. I feel like the idea of putting together a whole project, and I hear artists talk about this too, but it's so much nicer to come up with this whole big concept and have this beginning, middle, and end. Like, it's like exciting and it feels fuller, you know?
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
So when Nirvana put out Nevermind, it's the whole, concept of the record. It's not just one single.
Right.
It's a different thing.
I always find that so exciting because it's also like it's like reading a book almost, or watching a whole movie. You want the whole thing. So there's so much pressure to just put out a song that's catchy. The whole song doesn't even have to be catchy. Just the piece that goes on TikTok, and then that's it. And it just feels very quick and shallow. And
by the way, how do you handle criticism from I don't know, from the music scene or from friends, from family, whatever, for the audience?
Not as well as I'd like to, It's tough. It's funny because growing up, so I went to a performing arts high school in Manhattan. So at a very young age, at a very formative age, I was being criticized a lot.
Exposed to...
Oh gosh, really exposed to that kind of stuff. And they were really big on being like, we're going to make sure this feels just like the industry. Like, we're modeling what the industry is. But I'm like 13 and like, okay, There was a teacher once that it wasn't my class, but he had like lined up all the girls and told them which ones would be cast as cheerleaders and which ones wouldn't. So really intense, very like external based criticism too. So that was the world I had in my teenager life. So I'd say that like I have developed a certain tough skin for criticism where I'm not surprised that it exists, and that people are harsh and that people sometimes are well-meaning but don't have any tact when it comes to that. But I'd say that it has almost made me hypersensitive in some ways. I feel like I was really tough when I was young and now I'm like, so I'm kind of going backwards, but yeah, I mean, it's there and I think it's just part of the job and we have to be okay with it,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Are you extremely hard on yourself or not?
Yeah.
Yes?
Are you?
Yeah, many times. Like when you were talking about the voice ideas.
Yeah.
I usually, record something. I do the demo.
Yeah.
And then weeks later, I'm like, oh, this is crap. So I put it to trash.
I know, I totally know that feeling. I have the same feeling. I mean, even if I listen to my first EP, I was so young, and even the lyric choices sometimes I'm like, why did I do that? Oh my God, But you just have to learn to live alongside that
and
that
do you
feeling.
think it's harder to write if you get older?
Yeah.
Is it easier or harder to write music?
Oh. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like maybe I wasn't into being as critical or editing my music as much when I was younger. So maybe it felt easier because they would come out and I'd write the song and then I'd be like, okay, it's perfect, And now when that happens, it's like I can go through even like the production of my song. I'll have a couple of takes over the course of a year that's like, you're revisiting things a lot more. So it's funny, I liken it to driving, because I can't drive, I don't have a license, grew up here, but I look at 16-year-olds who drive no problem, they're not afraid, right? It's like, I'll get my license, I'll do it. And I'm like, this is the scariest thing you could possibly do, drive, I'm like, it's like you're in charge of a robot that could kill people. And as you get older, you become more aware of how dangerous it is, and so I've become so scared of driving. But I think about how young kids are like, whatever, we can do it. And maybe it's the same with music where you're like...
that's what I was reflecting, that I've been thinking about how, let's say, impulsive we are as younger people.
It's a good word
right?
for it.
And then, I don't know, society, the social pressure, all of that kind of push you back and like make you overthink things, right? 100%. Sucks.
Yeah, I don't love that at all.
Yeah.
I think about like the the Matisse quote. My mom is an artist. She teaches preschoolers art.
Oh, amazing.
And she always talks about this quote where she's like, Matisse said he spent his whole life trying to get back to painting like a child.
Right.
And so I think about that for music too a lot, where I'm like, my journey is just trying to get back to doing it as if I were a kid, you know, like free and without judgment and impulsive.
And do you think that social media affects you creatively?
Yeah, for sure. I think especially coming out of the pandemic time, because we were so reliant on that in the time when we couldn't really connect externally, I felt very influenced and very pressured to do the whole TikTok thing, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna get in front of the camera and be like, hey guys, you know, and it felt really not like something I wanted to do or felt comfortable doing. It didn't feel like me, but at that time I think I was pressured to try and make singles and music that would be like one-hit wonders on TikTok, you know, and that's just not at all what I value, but I felt super pressured to do that, especially then. And now I think I'm pulling back from it, which is nice. Yeah.
I really believe that creation or music or whatever art you're doing, it's to leave some kind of, you know, heritage or history of yourself.
No, I agree completely. I always feel like, and not even to leave like a legacy for myself, but that's why I feel now more so than ever in my music, really intent on honoring my family in my music and incorporating, you know, just even phrases that they'd repeat all the time, or I love to put sound bites, like audio of anybody in my family talking in my songs. Like, I'm always excited to try and honor that.
Yeah,